Speech and language, part 2. What happened?
I didn't do anything but Parker.
Parker, is that what happened? We gotta work on speaking up for yourself.
Pale. Go. Triangle.
What kid actually sees this and is like, oh my god, that's cheese? Unless you're in Central Market. They should make them like, am I right? Maybe flashcards or something?
Window. Doorbell. No.
How do we teach them these first words? And what counts as a word?
We always tell parents that you can count it as a word as long as your child is saying it consistently, intentionally, and independently. So consistently meaning that it's more than once and the child's doing it, let's say at least a handful of times. Intentionally, that the child is attaching meaning to the word, that you actually think that the child is, looking at a dog and saying da or dog. And then independently, that they're doing it on their own and that you're not prompting them, say dog or say ball, say ball. They just, look at a ball and say ball.
And then also another question that goes along with that we get all the time is like, well, do, numbers count as words? Do, things like that. And yes, so we say, first of all, words do not need to sound perfect when your child starts talking. And that is such a big thing because a child could say duh for dog and daddy and, truck even. And so again, as long as you know that they're saying it with meaning, word approximations are okay. Those do count. And also
signs count.
Yes, signs.
So sign language, if a child's going like this to request more, you can count that as a word. That is a word. Signing are words.
Exactly.
And they're not verbal, but they are considered words.
Yes.
So we count those. And then also exclamatory words, which are fun words that maybe we don't necessarily think of as words as adults, but words like boom or uh-oh or whoa. So those all can count as well.
Yeah. Or even I've seen kiddos that, for a car or a truck, they go like, and it's like, okay, that counts. Like that is their word for that. And eventually the plan and the hope is to shape those sounds into real words.
Another thing that parents get really confused about is like, how many words should my child have? It's a range. Yeah. It's a range between the milestone, which 90% of children are able to do, and the average, which about 50% can do. And anywhere in between that is common and typical.
What would you say are some of the most common first words?
I feel like most people tell us dada comes first and they really want mama.
So even IGTV called 4 ways to get your child to say mama.
Yes, that's right.
Ball, dog.
Most
of them contain what we call bilabial sounds, which include B, P, or an M.
Yes.
So
those are sounds made with the lips. They're easy to produce.
So B, P, and M.
Yeah, and M. And usually they're short, like one syllable words. And also words that start with a vowel can be easier, like on, up, things like that. So it really does depend on the child and what's in their environment. Because if there's, if the child is with, let's just say, Nana all day, then they might say that first, but generally it is those bilabial sounds that tend to come first.
Or those simple word shapes, like Brooke was saying, with a vowel consonant, consonant vowel, like high or by, or consonant vowel, like mama, dada. Yeah. Those are those early word shapes that we focus on first.
I feel like my kids have said uh-oh more than, which is great, but also you kind of wonder what they're getting into a lot. Like
right, exactly. Yes.
We're big fans of uh-oh.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what about things that we should avoid as parents when talking to our little ones?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk and discussion around baby talk, right? So there are kind of two different types of baby talk. There's the good kind and the not so good kind. So the good kind being what we call parent-ese or mother-ese. It's like a kind of a sing-songy, exaggerated speaking style, and that is very good. Your baby or toddler will love that. It grasps their attention. There are research studies that show that children learn more when you talk to them in that way. But the one thing is that you always want to be grammatically correct. So the grammar should always be correct.
And use real words.
And use real words. Exactly. So if you're talking in that way, but using fake words and not correct grammar, then that is the not so good baby talk.
Another thing that we always tell parents to try to avoid, which is impossible, and we do it ourselves, is try not to say. So say ball, say mama. Instead, you just want to say mama, mama, and you're repeating that word over and over again in hopes that they'll say it back. It minimizes that pressure. And when we tell them say this or say that, it actually sometimes will deter them from talking. And then I think like one of our other big ones is kind of slowing down your speech and simplifying it. So parents think and know, okay, I'm supposed to talk to my child, and sometimes they think they need to talk a little too much. So they'll say, okay, we're going to put your shoes on, and then we're going to go downstairs, and we got to get to call daddy, and then we're going to go to the car, and we're going to go to Starbucks. Mommy needs coffee. And it's just too much. So simplifying it and maybe saying, like, if you do have a cup of coffee, saying, coffee, drink. I'm drinking the coffee, and keeping it really simple in the moment. Talk about things as you show them, talk about things as you do them. And that helps add meaning to the words.
The biggest issues you hear from parents?
Primarily with what we do right now, it is those kiddos who are just late to talk and, just taking a little bit more time than, let's say, their older sister did.
The child's not babbling, or the child's not like reaching that milestone for the number of words they should say by 12 months or 18 months or 24 months. And that usually gets parents' attention when they're like, okay, my child's not meeting this, and then do an assessment and figure out like what the best plan of action would be for the child.
And also one thing that we say to parents as well is we put a lot of emphasis on receptive language and, how well is your child understanding? Because that is such a critical piece. If the receptive language is not there, then the expressive language can't be there, right? Receptive is the foundation. So that's like always the first question we ask. If someone says, my child isn't really talking, it's like, okay, well, are they understanding you? Can they follow simple directions? So we put a heavy emphasis on that.
Yeah. Because when a parent's like, no, I don't think they're understanding what I say. If I say daddy, they don't look toward daddy, or something like that. That's a bit more of a red flag, depending on the child's age. Like if they're past 12 months old, that's a red flag to, reach out to a speech pathologist, bring it up with your pediatrician.
Right. Minimizing speech-related tantrums. That kind of goes along with receptive and expressive language. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's
a real thing.
It is. Yeah.
So common.
It's tricky because I think these kiddos who do have a hard time, whether it be understanding language or expressing themselves, they do tend to express themselves more with behaviors. And once they get into that pattern, even when they do start to get words, sometimes they still use behaviors. So it is a little bit of a harder thing to break. We like to say, to really just get down on your child's level when this is happening, face to face, let them know that you are there and you are you're trying to understand them. One thing that we do a lot, the first thing I would always do is say, can you show me? Can you show me what you need? When they're getting frustrated because we're not understanding. So whether that means I'll pick her up and she, can show me, or she can guide me to it.
And then you want to give a word for that item. So if they're reaching up to the counter for a cracker, then you want to grab it and say, oh, you want a cracker? Yeah. Here's your cracker, and repeat that word. So that eventually they do start trying at least to attempt to say the word.
Exactly. Also giving choices. If you think you have an idea of what they might be trying to communicate, giving a couple choices. And again, like Bridget said, once you nail down what it is that they want or need, just really saying that word and modeling it so that they can start to kind of understand. Sometimes using signs can help to ease speech-related tantrums. So if a child's just having so much trouble expressing themselves verbally, we will try to work on, using signs to get them to express themselves.
Yeah. And if nothing else is working and like there's just full meltdown, you can just try to take your best guess. And you always want to approach your child with like empathy and not get frustrated because they're, struggling to get a message across to you. And by us getting frustrated and, upset about it, it doesn't help the situation.
And it's so hard not to get frustrated sometimes, I think. I know you have 2 courses right now, Talk on Track and the Late Talker.
Yes. So we recently renamed the Late Talker. It's now called Time to Talk Toddler Course. And the reason we did that is because when we came out with the course, we named it the Late Talker to try to help families who have children who are late to talk. But as we were going through it, we thought, gosh, this actually will help all families. It doesn't just have to be for late talkers.
Yeah, and it's what we did with our 5 kids, and it works. Like all across the board, all 5 of our kids were early to communicate, and we just kept thinking, gosh, like if a child is, just meeting the milestone, which is great, but like a parent wants to get them closer to the average or even beyond, definitely, this is a great resource to help your child get there, to expand their language, get them combining words together and starting to use sentences even.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
and then I think once we put that course out, the Late Talker, which is now Time to Talk, we then would get a lot of messages because my youngest at the time was about 12 months and started talking. I think by like 14 months, she had 250 words or something. And people are like, okay, you have the Late Talker course, but like, what did you do with Stella as a baby? And we're like, good point.
Yes.
So we created a course for infants, and that one is called Talk on Track, and just teaches a parent what to do from the very beginning to give your child language, to get them understanding language, and then get them cooing and babbling and moving into those first words. And that Talk on Track is for parents of newborns through 13, 14 months.
Overall advice for parents when it comes to speech.
Talk to your child.
Yes.
And like Bridget said before, not all talking is created equal. We don't want to use the baby talk with the incorrect, words and grammar. Parent ease is amazing when you can do it, captures your child's attention. But you also want to, when your child is within that age where they're really starting to learn their first words or combining words together, you want to simplify your language and slow down and repeat and repeat and repeat.
Showing items as you talk about them and doing actions as you say the word to help add meaning to the word. That is huge.
Yeah.
And those are, just kind of tipping the iceberg of what we talk about in the courses. We really go into detail and we coach parents through it, and we show real examples of real kids doing it. So our Instagram is a great resource. We kind of like give these tips, but to really see it in action, we dive into it deeper in the courses.
Speech Sisters was an idea that kind of came up a couple years ago when we just decided that we wanted to reach more families. So we have a private practice here in Southern California. We've had it for 10 years, and we specialize in early intervention. And we were doing a lot of parent education around early intervention and like helping late talkers start talking. And so much of it had to do with educating the parents and telling them what to do during, their daily routines. And the carryover is just so important when we're not there. And then we thought, gosh, we could tell this to so many families. We could, reach so many families.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the takeaway after doing our private practice for so long is that parent education is key, and getting the parents involved, because the parents are with the child the most.
Yeah.
And as a therapist, we can come in, but we're there, 45 minutes twice a week, let's say, and parents with their child all the time. So if they don't know what we are doing in therapy, then it just takes longer to get to reach those goals and to get to where the child needs to be.